No other people anywhere have achieved more for themselves and for the rest of us than the thousands upon thousands of hard-working American men and women. The millions who pool their skills and talents to produce the things we need and want. And we who enjoy whatever they have made for us do well to be thinking of what they are giving us. Oh yes, we know they work for their pay, for their food, and for the needs of their wives and the wants of their young ones. But also, they make for the joy of making things right. There was a time when many of our needs had to be imported from other countries. But now, American needs can be filled by Americans. American desires met by products American, made the American way, and by makers American. The American maker works for tomorrow as well as today, and he has a host of new products in store for us. Some of them ready for immediate viewing. Some of them are visible in the nearer distance, while others yet remain a dream of the future, but all of them on their way to us. Oncoming, attractive, useful products. Automatic highways with cars and buses that drive themselves. Compact new cars. Battery-powered transistorized TV that is really portable. Panel TV to hang on the wall like a picture. All these and more and more.
The most fact of communicating, as communication of smallpox, of a secret, of power. 2, intercourse by words, letters, or messages, interchange of thoughts or opinions.
In the broadest aspects of communication, much work has recently been done to clarify theories and make them workable. The era we are entering might well be characterized as an era of communication. This film will touch in the most elementary way some aspects of the subject that are of daily concern to all of us. Here is Claude Shannon's diagram by which almost any communication process can be schematically represented. The information source selects the desired message out of a set of possible messages. The transmitter changes the message into the signal, which is sent over the communications channel to the receiver, where it is decoded back into the message and delivered to the destination. Every such system contains noise. Noise is a term used in the communications field to designate any outside force which acts on the transmitted signal to vary it from the original. In this usage, noise does not necessarily mean sound. Reading is a form of communication where the word is the signal, the printed page the transmitter, light the channel, the eye the receiver. Here sound can act as noise and interfere with the message. But in some situations, like reading on a train where the sound level is normally high, it is not the sound that interferes with the communication process as much as the motion and the unpredictable quality of the light source. Quality of light and motion then becomes noise. In radio, noise could be static. In television, noise is often the distortion of the picture through transmitting or receiving. In a typewritten message, the noise source could be in the quality of the ribbon or the keys, and we are all familiar with the carbon copies that keep getting progressively worse. If anything acts on the signal so as to vary it in an unpredictable and undesirable way in the communication system, it is noise. We can consider telegraphy in terms of this same diagram. We will use a New York stockbroker's office as the information source and a Los Angeles stockbroker's office as the destination. There may exist at the information source just two possible messages, buy or sell. From these two, the message sell is selected, then coded to the telegraphic key transmitter and sent over the channel in electrical impulse signals, decoded by the receiver back into the message cell, and delivered to the destination. Noise, of course, is there, this time acting electrically. It could distort the signal in such a way as to change sell into self. But as there are only two possible messages, buy and sell, there is sufficient redundancy in the spelling of the words that even if it did read self, the information would still be clear. Naturally, this example has nothing to do with the stockbroker's office of today. Because of all organized communication, market information is perhaps the most efficiently handled. The New York information enters a signal channel in this form and is automatically decoded in Los Angeles in this form. But even here, we find redundancy counteracting noise. The English language is about one-half redundant. This extra framework helps prevent distortion of the message in the written language or in the spoken language. In speech, the brain is usually the information source. From it, the message is selected. The message is a thought, not the words. The vocal mechanism codes the words into vibrations and transmits them as sound across the communications channel, which is, of course, the air. The sound of the word is the signal. The ear picks up the signal and with the associated eighth nerve decodes the signal and delivers the message to the destination. This time, noise could originate in the transmitter or in sound vibrations that disturb the channel. Or it could be a nervous condition on the part of the receiver, and it could change the message from I love you to I hate you. How do you combat it? One way is through redundancy. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Another is increasing the power of the transmitter. This combats noise, as does the careful beaming of the signal or duplicating of the message via other signals.
You're watching Sleepcore. Pleasant dreams.
Doesn't really look as if there's a revolution going on, does there? In fact, everything seems perfectly normal, as if the world has always been like this. But it hasn't. The world our grandparents was born into was a very different place. And yet, it's amazing how quickly people can adapt to change. Now, in this series, we've looked at how computers are going to affect virtually every aspect of our day-to-day lives. Now, should we regard those changes as a threat or an opportunity? What can we really expect from things to come? A microcomputer like this will probably turn out to be just the very early stages in the development of this technology. But even if you put it to work now, it can still offer something very valuable. Computer power at very low cost. Costs far less than it would cost to have a person to do the same job. And unlike people, once you've taught it, it never forgets. It's capable of working infinitely long hours, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't have to provide light or heat for it. And in fact, it consumes less power than a 60-watt light bulb. In other words, it's the perfect slave. So how are we going to use this perfect slave? So far, we've suggested that automation and computers will profoundly influence production and service industries. But there's another job which is increasingly important in today's society, the processing of information. And that's where the computer is going to have its most profound impact in the future. Now, it says here, I promise to pay the bearer, on demand, the sum of £1. And it's signed by the chief cashier of the Bank of England. Well, here we are, the Bank of England. Trouble is, if I go in there and demand my £1, the chances are all I'll get is another one of these. The truth of the matter is, money doesn't really exist, or rather, whatever money is, it certainly isn't one of these. All this is information about money. So is a check, or a banker's draft, or a letter of credit. They're just information about money, and they're just some of the millions and millions of bits of paper that get shuffled around the City of London every day. If I want to pay my electricity bill, the most convenient place to do it is in the High Street branch. But the Electricity Board have their account at the branch of another bank over 100 miles away. So the question is, how does the Electricity Board get credited with my money? Hello, can I pay my electricity bill? I think that's the right amount.
We'll soon find out.
That's the last we'll see of money. All that leaves here tonight is a piece of paper proving I've paid the correct amount. And what happens next is an extraordinarily complex process taking all of 3 days. Journalist Rex Malik has been following it.
Chris's payment record goes first to the Barclays Bank Clearing Centre in the city. It's just one of the many millions of payments handled daily by the 4 main clearing banks. On an average day, Barclays themselves will handle nearly 5 million items, worth nearly £15,000 million and weighing 10 tons. The paper chase we are following is probably one of the world's most complex, routine, large volume paper handling operations. Checks go their separate ways to computers, but all other items, such as Chris's payment slip, have to be handled manually. This first sort will separate all the payments Barclays have to make, bank by bank, and then add them up, because what Barclays needs to know is how much it owes to each of the other banks. Nobody in this operation wants to know why any payment is made. or indeed who the payment is to. All the operations that these people here are doing are concerned with speeding the correct information on its way to the correct bank and the correct account. You'll remember that Chris paid his electricity bill at a Barclays local branch, but the electricity board have their bank account at a National Westminster branch. While Barclays have been sorting their pieces of paper, all the other banks have been doing the same thing. And before lunch on the second day, all the paper goes to a central clearing point, where they exchange it with each other. And somewhere in that lot is the record of Chris's payment. It's destined for the National Westminster Bank's clearing centre, not half a mile away, where all the processes will have to be gone through again, but this time in reverse. What came in bulk has eventually to leave here this evening in individual packages, each bound for a particular National Westminster branch. When one looks at a scene like this, one is tempted to ask, surely there must be another way for people to spend their lives. There will have to be, because jobs like this, in which people are just used as a convenient interface between machines, will probably disappear quietly and forever during the 80s. Should we be glad or sorry? In my opinion, we should be glad. People are too precious a resource to waste on mechanical work of this kind, when there are so many tasks waiting to be done, which would be more fulfilling to the individual and of greater worth to society.
Good morning. Welcome to the 7th Sunergy International broadcast. We're coming to you from California, and we're reaching North and South America and Europe. The delayed broadcasts will be in Asia, and of course all this will be digitized and available on the internet. Let me describe just a bit how we're reaching you so that you'll have an idea of the technology involved in all of this. We have 2 C-band satellites and 3 KU bands. We're on G-Star 2 for U.S. KU domestic. We're on Galaxy C7 for U.S. and Mexico C-band. We're on Intelsat KF1 for Europe for KU, and for Latin America and South America for KU, we're on Intelsat KF1 on a different transponder. Now, the reason I tell you all this is that those of you that watch this broadcast are technical people. And you all have the capability of using a variety of technologies to receive information. That's the point of this show. The next show we do, and I want to get you prepared for this, the next show we do will bring you in the television signal all the documents and information that we'll be providing you today by reference to FTP sites or other internet transport mechanisms. So the way this will work And this is what it's time to be prepared for. The way this will work, we can encode almost a megabit in the vertical blanking interval of any video signal, which means you need about a $20 in parts device to decode that, and that brings you all the text we'll talk about. So that's enough about technology. We'll talk a bit later about how this works. What are we going to do today on Synergy? We talked about cyber jockeying. We don't like these strange words, but the point of it is to say we're going to talk about how people are linked today and talk about the internet and its remarkable growth. We're going to talk about how you find things. Once you're linked, how do you read? What's a library like on the internet? If you can make the network go faster, what technology, ATM in this case, will revolutionize the interconnect of the world? And then how do you keep things secure? How do you have privacy when everyone's linked at very high speeds? Our guests today to talk about these questions, Carl Malamud, the founder of Internet Talk Radio, Brewster Kahle, Wide Area Information Service. Larry Irving will join us at the end to bring all this together as the director, the head of the National Telecommunications Information Administration, weaving together in a national policy perspective what Carl, Brewster, and Dr. Whitfield Diffie, the inventor, the creator of the Diffie-Hellman public key encryption algorithm, how these different elements all can be combined into a national and global information infrastructure. So with that said, I think it's time to begin the program. We have a mechanism for you to be able to ask us questions. We have a telephone number to call. There'll be an internet address, and there's a method for you to be able to send faxes across the internet. Carl Malamud and I will discuss that in a bit more detail. In fact, why don't we join Carl now over at the table where the program will take place. So let me go over there.
On computers. This time, computer games and simulations. And among the players, of course, is that all-star Jim Butterfield. And even I knew before the Academy began that the computers were good games. My question now is why?
They have a lot of things going for them that make them very good players. For example, they're very interactive. They'll tend to respond to what you type in. They motivate you very well. People want to win. They want to pit themselves against the computer. They can play strategy against you, or for that matter, if it's not a strategy game, they can take care of the bookkeeping and other things going along with it. And of course, with a computer, you have a large variety of input devices that let you control the interact world of it.
All right, before we talk about computers and simulations, maybe we better define simulation.
Simulation is an imitation of some sort of an event. It might perhaps be a real event, or it could be something from fiction or fantasy. Whatever it is, it tries to put together the event, create it almost as if it were happening, so that you can try your hand at it and see right away what the results of your action can be. It's the sort of thing whereby with practice on a simulation, you can know a great deal about the real-world event that you're having.
And all of the elements that make it good for games work equally well with simulation?
Yes, the simulation can also be very, very highly motivating. You'll want to win. You'll want to make it come out very, very well. Simulations are very good in schools, but they're also gaining increased acceptance in business, government, and for training personnel for learning how to cope with given situations. Many of the elaborate simulations are on mainframe computers, not too many on micros at the moment.
Oh, why is that? Is that because you need more powerful computers to handle simulations?
Very much it is, yes.
All right, you mentioned business. Are there any good business simulators on micros?
There are a number of financial planning packages that allow you to put up the figures that you think you'll see in the future and see what happens when you change investment and other things like that. But they're probably not simulations in that you don't see the system interact as a consequence of the actions you take. I have a simple business simulation here that I can show you, Jack. They're still relatively uncommon on the small computers, but I think it will illustrate the sort of thing that I've been saying.
All right, what does it look like?
Okay, well, this simulates the effective manufacturing thing.
I long to see the setting sun bring peace on earth to everyone, and faith reborn each glowing morn chains that bind, to soothe each ache of heart and mind, to set